Respect for the will of the people. September 3, 2014. You each have the ability to interpret the energies and impressions of the higher realms, and in time, more souls will rediscover and tap into this ability. As your planetary vibration continues to rise, far more souls will awaken to the reality of channeling and various other concepts you've been taught to believe are pure fiction. And when all of humanity understands just how real and pure your spiritual abilities are, the revolution we've spoken of in the past will be strengthened exponentially. We can envision every soul finding and acting on the motivation to contribute to your planetary restoration in immensely helpful and needed ways, and the conscious public is currently pioneering the utilization of your greater capabilities. You're raising the planetary vibration as you do this, and you're always given support and assistance from your higher selves, your guides, and the rest of the company of heaven. We seek to assist you whenever and wherever we can, because we note that the earthly experience can be very difficult, can leave you feeling like you're separated from your guides or the higher realms in general, when in reality, you aren't. Your reality is spiritual. You're only as separate from us as you're willing to believe you are, and in time, you'll see that you could never be separate from spirit because spirit makes up your reality. Even though your physical reality is diseased and filled with twisted distortions and things that make you wonder how humanity descended so far into darkness, your reality is just as spiritual as the higher dimensions you're growing back into. You have to realize the inherent spirituality of your reality before you can really enjoy it, and if you actively seek the spiritual magic so many of you miss so much, you'll start to find it. You can find anything without first making an effort, and once this request is made, an additional effort is required to open up to it. You can't perceive anything you haven't yet opened up to, and if you make a request to witness the ongoing descent of ever purer spiritual matter onto your reality, this request will subtly but surely be granted. In fact, you'll find in time that the company of heaven weren't the ones who granted it, you were. You're the individual and collective creators of your reality, and you've unknowingly created everything you experience. If you make a request to feel the energies you're being given in a greater purity than many of you have been able to so far, your manifestation powers will naturally respond as long as you keep strong to your request, and commit to whatever may be required to see it granted. You manifest your experiences, and realizing this is essential to successfully lightening and refining your vibration, so you can witness the miracles you're ready to see. However difficult or spiritually draining your reality seems, it doesn't have to be. Humanity has collectively manifested an illusion of division and confinement, which your cabal has played on in an effort to keep you divided and conquered, but you can step out of this collectively enforced matrix with a simple decision to do so. Effort is obviously required beyond this desire, but it doesn't have to be nearly as difficult as many of you have convinced yourselves it does. The effort you make can be as easy and free-flowing as you let it, and we note that it can be difficult for many of you to surrender to your personal flow instead of creating mental obstructions that block your reception of the very energy you're ready to feel. Surrendering the ego will always be an important aspect of finding a higher state of consciousness, and when the ego is fully surrendered and subdued, it can properly interpret the energies and expressions of the open heart. Tapping into the heart and allowing the ego to serve its will is one of the best things you can do for yourselves, and when you can transcend the ego's influence and reach a pure, heart-centered space once and for all, you'll see that it's monumentally important to your ascension. You can't raise your vibration if you constantly obstruct your natural, creative flow, and the more you access this flow, the more you'll discover its importance to your ascension path. Stabilized energetic field. Your creative flow is so important because it consists of the very energy that creates and sustains your reality, which we mentioned earlier in this communication. Your energetic field has to be stabilized enough for your chakras to be as healthy as they need to be to bring through the pure energy you're being given, and if you tip out of balance because of anger or anything else that keeps you in a lower frame of mind-heart, you'll destabilize your field and your chakras will fall out of balance, bringing through too much or too little universal energy. Balance is as essential as subduing the ego and living in the heart, and those of you who are discovering this are finally starting to physically and spiritually soar. Your existence is becoming much more enjoyable now that you've discovered you can live from a constant, heart-centered space, and your ability to welcome and radiate an increasingly pure banquet of universal energy is growing as a result. However, those of you who haven't fully reached this realization are struggling with obstructions, blockages, feelings of disappointment and, in some cases, worthlessness. All of those feelings are caused by the void many seekers still unknowingly feed, and they can be transcended along with the ego if you root yourselves in the heart and refuse to leave this space for any reason. The best way to remain rooted in the heart is to make sure all of your thoughts, expressions, and actions are of love instead of greed and hatred. It's very simple to embody the divine qualities, but we note that it can be difficult for many seekers who try very hard to live in love but find themselves descending into lower qualities at the drop of a hat. Many seekers will have to learn to control the ego-driven impulse to react in untoward ways to situations or circumstances that aren't in their favor, and your ongoing attempts to find balance will eventually render you able to handle these situations. We note how difficult it can be for many of you, but you're given far more assistance than you realize and, again, opening up to this assistance is the best way to receive it. You receive a constant stream of energy and advice from your higher selves and guides, and the most difficult lessons you're facing will become much easier when you realize this link exists and actively pursue it, awakening others to its existence in the process. Your ability to find and radiate a higher vibration is growing with each attempt you make to connect with your higher selves and guides, and every time you can successfully remain in a pure, balanced space in the face of temptation to feed into former ways of being that are more destructive than constructive, you raise your planetary vibration, even if only a little. If all of humanity were motivated to embrace the divine qualities and treat each other with the love and respect that seem missing from your society, the future you've been waiting so long to see would be easily kick-started, because your collective motivation to build your new world would skyrocket. We've said before that humans have displayed in the past that you can do great things if you put your minds and hearts to it, and we ask you to imagine what it'd be like if everyone on your planet were as motivated to create a new society as you've been about every other revolutionary thing that's helped you advance to your current position. Humanity has advanced in a lot of ways, but in a lot of other ways, progress still needs made. Addressing important social issues. You've made a lot of progress in constructing your society and technologically advancing, which you've been given help with by off-world interests, but you still have a ways to go in terms of how you treat each other, the level of love and compassion you show for the plight of others. Many people have no idea how much brutality and destruction are being experienced in certain parts of your world, and will never encourage complacency in regards to the widespread suffering plaguing your planet. We do recommend keeping in mind that everything happening on your planet ultimately serves a higher purpose, but we also encourage you to see that you can play a role in this higher purpose by speaking out against the atrocities that are committed every day, many of which you don't yet know about. There's nothing wrong with campaigning to end the widespread destruction that seems endless, and in fact, it's important that you do if you want to build a new world. As long as you don't feel divided or conflicted within, you can address every issue under the sun. The problem is when people allow themselves to feel divided within because of the issues your planet faces, such as the rule of the 1% and the oppressive things that take place every day to hide the truth from you and keep you from discovering your true history and potential. You can recognize that these things are happening and seek to mend them, but it's essential that you feel whole within if you want to properly fix them. If you let them bring you out of your center, then you'll manifest the division that keeps the worst issues your planet faces going. Thus, there's no reason to let any given issue divide you within, and you will benefit much more from addressing every social issue from as loving and centered of a space as you can. You'll be very glad you did, because you'll find the most sensible and level-headed solutions for every problem. Many of your governing bodies choose to make their decisions from an internally divided place. And needless to say, this'll have to change if you want to enter the light. Governing bodies as you perceive them aren't necessary in the fifth dimension, but transitory governments will have to be established in a fair and honest way, who'll make decisions that are in humanity's best interest instead of the interest of multinational billion-dollar corporations that influence the decisions that are made more than many people realize. The influence of shadow entities in politics will be widely understood when humanity awakens to your true situation, and the governments that'll be established in preparation for your collective ascension won't deal in the corruption and terrorism that many of your current governments do. Instead, respect for the will of the people will be unflinchingly honored, and your collective motivation building your new society will rise even more because you'll see that fair and just leadership actually is possible. Despite the extent to which the cabal has distorted the idea of fair leadership, it's more than attainable, but the citizens have to be just as involved in making decisions as the governments. The people have to be involved in running your planet, and it can be no other way. The fact that you aren't involved gives the cabal even more power to make decisions that aren't in your best interest, and we'll make our final expressions for this communication with endless encouragement to recognize the injustices that plague your society and seek to mend them. The idea that you're only one person is as false as the idea that humanity isn't worthy of creating change, and while there's strength in numbers, you're also strong as individuals. You're as strong as you let yourselves believe, and if you had enough faith and confidence in yourselves, you could move mountains. You could easily transform the surface of your once last planet, and all it takes is the aforementioned faith and motivation to do what's required. We are confident that all of humanity will find this motivation in due time, and for now, continue to embrace your mission with absolute assurance in where you're going. You're re-entering the most heavenly and blissful dimensions that can be experienced, and from the fifth dimension, you'll discover even more, purer realms and perceptions that'll leave you in awe. Thank you to my higher self and spiritual guides. Channeled through Wes Anak. cultureofawareness.com